This week, I took my 95-year-old dad to have his hearing checked. You know, every time they give him a new pair of hearing aids, and it's time, every time he gets a new pair of hearing aids, they require a hearing test. When Dad came in and they recognized that he was referred from the VA and he was a vet, they fussed all over him. Oh, you're a vet. We're so glad that you're here. We just love, being able to serve our vets of our country. And we were ushered in and we met the audiologist that was going to test Dad, and her name was Rosie, and she was sweet. Wonderful lady, and she was just thrilled. You could tell that she liked the vets. She talked to him. She was saying, "I'm so glad that I get to do your hearing test." So he took him into the room, into the testing room, and he went into the soundproof room. They put the headphones on, and she started the process of beeps and dings and repeat the words you hear and all this kind of thing. And after they were done, we went back in her office, and as Dad sat down, she came out and pulled her chair and sat right next to him, and she says, I want to thank you for your service to our country. She said, "Where did you serve?" And Dad said that he was in the World War II Pacific campaign. And she just looked at him and she said, "I want to thank you for the sacrifice and the service that you gave to our country. You are the greatest generation." I don't think Dad had ever heard that before. And she says, "How old were you when you enlisted?" And Dad said, "I was 16. And she looked at him, and there's this tear started rolling down her cheek. "But you are a part of the greatest generation." And she said, "There's not many of you left." Then she just started talking freely, and she said, "I'm just so worried about our nation today. I'm so worried about this mess that we seem to be in. There's so many people just hate our country. They hate our nation. They look at our history and they don't seem to understand what our history was about and the people who sacrificed and served and built our nation, and they seem to be against all of our values." And she said, who's going to step in and save us? Who's going to say that's not what America's like? Who's going to step up and save our nation today? Yeah, I've been thinking about that conversation, that whole encounter. Well, I don't know if you've heard or not, but this is our last Sunday here in the fellowship hall. And we've been here for 25 weeks, 6 months. Does it seem like we've been in here 6 months? The time really has gone fast, hasn't it? 6 months ago, as we were preparing to come over here, I kept saying, I believe that God has something very special planned for us. Because, where a church gathers to worship is a sacred space. It's a very special space. And when God moves you to another place, God is always strategically working in our lives. And if He moves you to another place, it's because that place is going to be used in some way for us. Because that's the way that God works. And I knew He had a purpose for us. And I said, in these next weeks while we're over in the fellowship hall, we need to open ourselves up. We need to listen to God. We need to be letting God fashion our lives and kind of prepare us for what He wants us to do when we come back over into the remodeled space. A Bible verse came to me as I was thinking about this day. And it's a word that God spoke to his people through Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 43. And this was a difficult, terrible time in the history of Israel. The Assyrian Empire was approaching to attack their nation. And the Assyrian Empire was much stronger than Israel. And Isaiah came and he spoke to them and he says, I want you to forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. He says, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you perceive it? This is one of these special Bible verses where God is telling us He is the God of new things. In fact, God is always working a new thing everywhere. He's always working a new thing in each and every one of our lives. Sometimes He's trying to pull us away from something that's not good for us. Sometimes He's calling us to something that would be better. Sometimes He is pushing us toward a challenge, but He is always doing a new thing. But because that's God's thing, it's new things. It's creative. It's for us. In this Bible passage, it says, yeah, the Assyrians are coming, but I'm doing a new thing. And it's springing up right now. Do you perceive it? Do you see it? Do you see it? I'm just thinking about Rosie's words when he says our nation is a mess. We're in big trouble. And I just thought about this verse and I said, in those moments when you think you're in big trouble and when you think that things are a mess, what does God have to say to you? He says, I'm doing a new thing. It's springing up right now. Do you see it? Do you see it? So we've been here 6 months. And I told you before we came over here that God was going to do a new thing. That He had a purpose for this. So what is it? Do you see it? Do you see it? You're sitting there and saying, no, but I'm hoping you'll tell me, right? What is this new thing that God has been doing for 6 months among us? What do you think it is? Come on. Really? You don't see it? You don't know? Well, as I was preparing our sermons, first thing I did was I just called Galen. And I asked him yesterday, I said, Galen, what do you think that God has been doing among us in these last 6 months over in the fellowship hall? You know, Galen's good with words. Man, he's good with a quick thought. He said, I believe every Sunday we have been discovering what is core and essential to be a church together, a spirit of life. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah? Maybe he ought to preach this message today, right? No, I'll take it. Core and essential. What does that mean, core and essential? You know, when we came over here, we said, we're gonna jump into the book of Acts. We want to learn about how the church got started, what pulled people into it, how God moved and did new things and moved the church outside of Jerusalem to then start migrating all through the Roman world. And how missions churches got started. How Paul, as this missionary, he started church after church after church after church because there's something inside of us that feels like those words are supposed to be speaking to us. That God's doing a new thing here. And the thing that's core and essential that when we get together, and it's like Melody says, it doesn't matter where we meet. It's that when we're together, but it's more than just that. It is when we get together and we let God speak to us through His Word. And we've done that for 6 months. 6 months you've heard some of the strongest sermons that have ever been preached at Spirit of Life. You've heard them. They've been right here. And right here we have connected in community. You know, we found out when COVID hit us, when we couldn't meet together. You remember that? Remember how just wrong that felt? Remember how hard that was for us not to just be able to invite someone over to the house or to go meet at church and to connect with one another. And when all of that community and connection was put on hold, remember how we felt? It's like we were panicking, so we called each other more often, right? On the phone, what was going on? Remember how we would, I listened to Darla's phone, while we're watching TV at night. I said, ding, 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 ding. I say, Darla, what in the world is going on? Well, it's our ladies talking. Connecting, talking. And remember how then, I said, well, let's do our Bible studies. We'll do them on Zoom. And we had meetings. And so we can still have meetings. We still can be at church. And remember when we couldn't gather together for worship? A couple of us would come up here and get the cameras going. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. Never videoed anything on an iPhone. Thank God they're simple. Thank God we had people like Garrett around and Emma there. She showed us how to do it. I said, well, how do you do this, And we bumbled and we stumbled, and I think after about a month we were able to actually live stream a service, right? It took a long time. It was difficult. But you see, what's happened here in these last 6 months, we've been right here in these close quarters. And when we came over here, I said to myself, this needs to be a time when we come close together. And how do you come together? And I said, you got to have a focal point. And I thought, I want to get this bright, round rug. I told Melody, bright, round rug. She thought, really? Rug? Yes, I want to put it right in the middle, and that's where all the kids can come to church here, and this is where I have the children's message, and I don't want to have the seats in a line because I want those things to curve around. I says, well, you can't get those seats too close. You'll intimidate everybody. So she said, you have to give it about 8 feet between the rug and the chairs. Every Sunday when we're setting this place up, you don't know. I go over there and I walk it off so that you guys are not intimidated, right? I don't want to scare you. I don't want to overwhelm you here. She never thought I might do this, right? Oh man, that's scary. Feels better to me. I don't know how it makes you feel. You don't like it. But what it does is it's pulled us closer together, hasn't it? This has been close. Have you watched the kids when they come in? It's kind of, they're just running around this whole place like they own it. They belong here. This is their home, I've seen these kids come in and they walk in and the first place they go to is right up here. And sometimes they'll just lay down and they'll just rub their face on it. You've seen that, right? Rub their face on it. This is my place. I know the smell. I know the way it feels. Like, this is my place. And this, that's that sense of community that's gone on among us. And then we've had this. We focused on not only the closeness where we can share our faith and learn about God together, but also this whole idea of connecting in community, in fellowship. We have been given a gift from God, and that gift's name is Christina, and she is amazing. You don't see her, but when Marcos drives her up and drops her off, she walks in with an armful of stuff. That woman is locked and loaded, ready to get this meal on the table and have it ready for us. And when we started out, Melody said, we just need one table over here to put the food on. Well, we put the one table to have the food on, A few weeks later, Melody says, I need another table to put the food on. And ever since that, we've had look at that table over there. And the food's not out there. Look at that. It's just sitting there with little signs of the stuff that's going to be on there. Man, and that's waiting for us when we're done here. And the next thing, we started off with 2 round tables over there because Melanie said, some people, they just don't want to stand up. They're going to want to sit down. And we put the 2 tables out over there. And, we were worried about taking up all the room over there with those tables. And we put them out there. And, a couple of weeks later, she says, we need some more tables. Now we got 4 over there. You know why we only have 4? It's because we don't have room to put any more over there, right? 4 tables, they'll all be full. It's just wonderful. And we had a moment of truth that happened maybe about a month and a half ago. And that is, guys have this instinctive thing going on inside of them, I got to get everything done that needs to be done. And when the service is over, us guys, what's the first thing we're thinking about? We got to put these chairs away. Right? We got to put these chairs away. Nobody ever asked, why do we have to put these chairs away? Like, we got to put the chairs away, I got to thinking about it, like, how can we be putting the chairs away while people are trying to connect and fellowship? And we talked it over, and our guys group, we got together, and we all thought, we need to be a church that says that fellowship stuff's important. We can wait for a while before we put the chairs away. And we've done it, and it's been wonderful because we made a conscious decision for fellowship, for the connecting, because that is something that is important to us, because community is core and essential. And another thing that we've done here is that we have been focusing on the essentials. We got no space over here, folks. We got no space. Everything we use to worship, we sat down and we said, do we need it? Do we have to have it? Where can we put it? How are we going to bring it out? Is that going to work? Who's going to help it? You're thinking about all this kind of stuff. So what you see right here is what's core and essential for worship. And it all goes into about 2.5 closets. It all disappears in 2.5 closets. Everything gets taken out of here, and it's converted back to a place where a Christian school can be here during the week. Essential. We've learned what essential is. Core. What are we about? We've seen that happening among us. We see the impact that that's had on our kids. They're just everywhere, having a great time, being with one another. And then, even the littlest one, when Melody does her announcements, and when that little jingle that's playing, when Melody comes up here, if she's not standing next to Melody, Isabel comes and stands next to Melody. She can't talk. But she's up here to do announcements with Melody, right? Have you seen her? She is a part of this. She's in there serving with Melody. You see that. And that is just a precious thing to behold, isn't it? Our teens. I don't think a lot of you know what all the teens do around here. We've got these jobs, and our teens have volunteered to do this. Corey fixes up the communion and sets it out and takes care of it every time we have communion. Thank you very much, Corey, for that. Israel and LJ, they're working back there in the coffee bar. We've got other young people that are doing stuff like that, but they want to be a part of that. They want to be a part in this whole idea. We are together, we are serving, that's core and that's essential, and they're a part of that. And a few moments ago, when I told you in the olden days, it was just me and Stuart. And we did that for years. And when I brought those young people up here, what did you feel when you saw them standing up here? Do you get this? This is a next-gen worship team. I want to tell you that they have been working and preparing themselves to run some tech over there in a new booth, and I don't even know what 3/4 of it does. All I know is it has a lot of blinky lights, and there's computers. They got the new computer over there. They had a computer. They tried to run the presentation program, and it wasn't strong enough, didn't have enough horsepower. And so they got a new computer. You will not believe this computer. It's got flashy, blinky, neon lights inside of it. It's spinning. I don't even want to touch it. I mean, it is scary. It is intimidating. And I want to tell you, this is just thrilling their hearts to be able to use these kinds of tools. Claudia, she's got this passion for artistry and music, and she jumped in and she's learning all this software, and I'm thinking like, I don't know if I can figure it out. And so I'm thinking like, Claudia's fast. And then Garrett goes over and he starts working on this stuff. He said, I said, Garrett, I don't know how we're going to do this. Oh, I looked at it last night. We can take care of this. I kid you not. Kid you not. I've been trying to find a way out of that, and nobody will let me out. Claudia, please, you can just take all of this. No, I just like the worship stuff. I called Garrett yesterday and said, Garrett, when you got a chance, give me a call. And that was on Friday, wasn't it? Friday. Yeah, call him. When you have time, give me a call. Man, I'm just slammed, Pastor. He knew what I was going to ask him. He knew what I was calling him for. He said, I'm just slammed from the morning till the evening. He must have been slammed Friday, Saturday. Didn't get a call today. But you're not getting out of here without a conversation today. Let me just tell you that one. A whole new generation of worship artists and techies. And I want to remind you of that verse where the people of Israel are troubled by an approaching army, and God says, I'm doing a new thing. I'm doing a new thing as the army comes. The weeks it takes for that army to get here, the months it takes, you know they're coming. And God says, I'm going to do a new thing. It springs up. Do you see it? Do you see it? I'm asking you do you see this new thing? Are you seeing this new thing? You know, we read that. You've heard that verse before. See, I'm doing a new thing. You know, when Jesus rose from the grave, that's what he said. The disciple says, now what? And God says, see, I'm doing a new thing. I'm making all things new. They didn't have a clue what he was talking about. But everybody, when they hear about God doing a new thing, oh, yeah, I want to know what that is. Can you tell me? Tell me what the new thing is. And you want to know, right? That's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. You see, when God says, I'm doing a new thing, that's his character. That's what he's always doing. He's always up to a new thing. And these new things that are going on, you never can figure them out until you step into them. You can't see it until you become a part of it. God set the people of Israel free in Egypt, and they're traveling out and they're going to the promised land. They didn't know what the promised land was going to be like. They didn't have a clue. You got to travel to get there before you see it. You got to commit yourself to it before you see it. You got the children of Israel, they're approaching the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army is coming after them. They're in a moment of crisis and they don't know what to do. And God says, I'm doing a new thing. And they have to wait until the last minute. And what happens? The waters part. They didn't know the water was going to part. They had no clue. They thought they were all going to die. Please just let them come and be nice to us and take us back to Egypt. And God says, no, I'm doing a new thing. I'm putting an end to the slavery that they have kept you to. He did a new thing. They didn't see it. They didn't know it was coming. They did not have a clue. Mary and Joseph, they're traveling as fast as they can to get to Bethlehem. They didn't know if they were going to have a place to stay. They didn't know how this pregnancy was all going to transpire. They couldn't see the new thing, but they were moving and stepping in toward it. The shepherds, they heard the angels say, and they thought to themselves, hey, we got to go look around and find this manger where there's a baby in it. They didn't know where it was. They didn't have a clue. Jesus, when he called these followers, these people that he encountered, and he says, follow me. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know what was in store. They didn't know what it entailed. Wow. They had to step into it. They had to walk into it. And when Jesus rose from the grave, they're talking to one another and talking to Jesus. Well, what now? What now? And Jesus says, it's a new thing. It's a whole new thing. And you have to step into it. You have to step into it. These new things that God does, you never know what it is. Because it's always ideas. He's got plans that are bigger than anything that we would imagine. Promised lands are always bigger. Rescues are always more intense and powerful. The promises that he gives us are more than we ever imagine. He is always there for us. And these new things, we have a sense. We have this moment where we know that God, we feel that God is going to do something. We know it. We sense it in our deepest places. And then very oftentimes in life, you will feel like you're on the threshold of something new. And you just don't quite understand that. I want to tell you, you need to believe that and give it validity. When you feel those things, you are on a threshold. And God is asking you to step over that threshold, to step into it and live it. And let him work through the life that you're living. Do you know what when the Bible always talks about new things? You know what the new thing is? The new thing is always us. It's not something shiny or sparkly. It's not something unimaginably cool. It's us. Because that's the new thing that God is always working on. And that is to call us to Jesus, to help us see what he has done. And when we give our hearts to Jesus, then we really are new people, aren't we? We start seeing the world from Jesus' eyes and not our old eyes. You see, this new thing, God is always working new things in our lives. He's always changing us. There's always stuff that's going on that we need to stop listening to. There's things that are going on that are dragging us away from him. There's always this stuff going on and we think, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if we can step into it. But in all of these things, God is working inside of us. And I want to tell you, God's been working inside of all of us right here in this place in ways that we can't even imagine. Transforming us. And as he transforms us, have we learned anything in our study of the book of Acts? Is as people accept Jesus Christ, what happens is that they impact other people and they transform the world. Now, I want to come back to Rosie's question. Who's going to save us? Who's going to come to our rescue? Where's the greatest generation that's going to come and speak some truth and some hope and the Word of God in the hearts and lives of people? And God is working a new thing, and you know what that new thing is? It's us. It's us. It's always been us. And it will always be us. It's the story of the early church, right? Paul goes to the city of Ephesus and he just starts teaching 3 hours, 6 days a week. And the next thing the leaders of the community are saying, this guy Paul, he's transforming our entire culture. You see, that's what we as Christians don't. We haven't really accepted the power of God's Word. That powerful Word that He's given us to change us, to be our compass, to the Spirit's presence, to use us, to transform us. That is what's going to have an impact on our world. There's no other force in this world that can change it and transform it into the new thing that God wants it to become other than God's people in His church. You know, in our men's group, we meet every Monday night, and we've been doing this year of men. And last week we shared a quote from the old British preacher Chesterton a century ago. And he said something that just caught my eye. He says, every generation loses the gospel. Every generation loses the gospel. And every generation is charged with its recovery. I just still see Rosie's tears. She's so worried about what's happening in our world today. And she's sitting there holding the hand of one of the few last of the greatest generation. And she's wondering, who is going to save us in the mess we're in right now? I'm telling you, God is doing a new thing. It's springing up, and it has been springing up in the last 6 months we've been right here. God is doing a new thing, and we are the people that He has called to speak to this world and this mess, and to believe that God is inside of all of it. For us to be encouraging people to connect to Christ. I mean, we got the best church in the whole world right here. Best place to bring somebody. Because here they're going to be accepted, they're going to be loved, they're going to get to see kids crawling all over the round circle rug. They're going to see real life and real people, and they're going to hear God's word speaking to all of that. And the words that are said right here are the powerful ideas of what God wants this world in such a mess to know and hear, to understand the history of the gospel. So we know the kind of stuff that God's doing. And we're singing songs together. You know, He did it before and He's going to do it again, over and over again. Claudia's going to be singing that song multiple times, right? Over and because this is the heartbeat. We know the moment that we're in and what God is up to. God's doing a new thing right now. Do you see it? Everyone here at Spirit of Life, we see it. I talked about it. You feel it. You know it. You can't You can't see the whole picture because God's unfolding it. But we know He is, and knowing that He is invites us to throw our hearts into it and our lives into it. You know, I've been in about 5 or 6 churches meeting in a temporary place just like this. And I want to tell you that when I think back in my life to those moments where I was helping a mission church get started, where we were having our first services, and what happened in that church and among us, in those places just like that, those were the best times of my life. It was the best times of my faith life. And you are going to look back on this, and your mind's going to say, you remember when we were meeting that fellowship hall? And there's going to, and your heart and your spirit is going to be showing you so many important things that happened in that time. I thought about that when I'd come and we start dragging stuff out and setting it up again and saying in about 4 hours we're going to put it all back away, right? Over and over and over again. It's all worth it. It's all worth what God is doing among us in these moments. And I assure you, you're going to say this was one of the best times. It has been for me, and I'm sure it is for you. And God has more for us in store when today we put the chairs away for the last time. Put the tables away for the last time. And we're saying, we're going into this new place for what God has before us. He's doing a new thing. It's already happening. We're going to see it. We're going to step into it. We're going to live it. You with me? God bless you. As we leave this place, let's leave with joy here today after we enjoy the table. Then when we leave, let's go and say, Lord, I'm ready for next, and to look forward to that new thing He has for us. God bless you and have a great week.